Hi, thanks so much for joining me today. Today we're going to be talking about creating a restorative sequence without using props. For the past several weeks, we've been talking about restorative yoga exclusively with the use of props. We've talked about restorative yoga being a minimalist practice where the practitioner is completely supported, where sensation is at a minimum, movement is at a minimum, and sound is at a minimum. This week, I'd like to offer you an alternative. When props are not available, how can you sequence a restorative class that is still of benefit to your students? The good news is that there are many different ways that we can sequence a restorative class without the use of props. In fact, when we're practicing restorative yoga, the ground becomes a prop, the wall becomes a prop, our own body can even become a prop. In this way, we can creatively explore all of the ways that we can leverage gravity to open the body. I'm going to be showing you some variations of restorative yoga poses without props tonight. I invite you to practice them yourself and maybe even compare them to their sibling pose that uses props. Notice which one is more appealing in your body. You might even consider when you would use one over the other. Oftentimes in our yoga practice and in our teaching, we use what's available to us. But there are always situations that call for less propping, just like there are situations that call for more propping. This is a great opportunity for us as teachers to reflect on the when and where we would implement different techniques and methods. Let's get started on your mat without any props to support you. The first restorative pose that we're going to look at without props is going to be a traditional Shavasana pose. Taking the right shoulder, lifting it off the earth, and then wrapping the shoulder blade down the back, and then doing that with the left shoulder will help you to feel more rested and supported here. You might even lift the hips and snake the tail towards the heels. Just taking a moment to find your sweet spot in the pose. Shavasana is a beautiful place to start your practice or to begin sequencing from. It's a natural transition and requires very little effort to move in and out of it. For the purposes of our lecture today, I'm going to use this as a starting point to move us through the other restorative practices that do not require any props. Starting from a simple Shavasana, go ahead and extend the arms to the right and the left. Bring the soles of the feet to the mat so that they're mat's distance apart, and drop both knees to the right, allowing the femur bones to descend into the hip sockets. Let the weight of the legs carry the body into a deeply relaxed state. If we were to be sequencing this particular posture in a restorative class, we might hold this particular posture for 10 to 12 minutes before switching to the second side. For our purposes today, we'll go ahead and move back through center, just evening ourselves out. Let the entire body go. Let go of any holding or tension in the hips, the feet, the ankles, the knees. Really allow your entire body to drop in and down. Again, feeling the femur bones descend into the pelvic girdle, anchoring the pelvis to the earth. We can come back to the center and we can take another unsupported restorative posture by bringing the soles of the feet together in Supta Baddha Konasana. This might be intense for some of us, and if this is intense, you can always extend the legs long or bring the soles of the feet to the mat and knock the knees in wide. You can always add a variation here by raising the arms up overhead and maybe clasping one wrist with the opposite hand. This is a beautiful way to open the chest as you open the hips. If you've grabbed one wrist, you'll go ahead and switch, taking the opposite wrist in the opposite hand, just allowing for that energetic continuity between both sides. Notice the sensations in the pelvis, the low belly. Just notice how the body feels. Notice how it responds to the opening. Releasing the hands back down beside the body. Extend the legs to the right and the left. Just allowing the legs to open up. Let the entire body drop in and drop down. Feeling the body completely supported by the earth. Another beautiful, unsupported, restorative posture and variation on Shavasana. Adding on here, we can bring the soles of the feet back to the mat and just simply knock the knees in wide. The hands can be down by the hips, down by the sides, or they can be up overhead in a cactus position. Noticing that adding the cactus position to the arms increases the sensation and stretch along the front of the body, and it may increase the holding sensation in the back of the body. As a teacher, you can cue your students to tune in to these sensations, learning when to back off or come out of the pose when the sensation might be more than the practitioner is looking for. Always remembering the cumulative quality of restorative practice. As you're ready, bringing the soles of the feet together and dropping both knees to the right and rolling to a fetal position on the right side of the body. Allow the body to be still, supported by the hands, the head supported, the side body supported, the hips supported. This position is a beautiful position to transition or to stay. As we move from a fetal position back to the center of our mat, we can find a deer position and gently lay forward over the front leg. I like to place my hands one on top of the other for a crocodile variation in the upper arms. Just allowing gravity to weight my body down to the earth. Holding this position for several minutes. We'll open the outer hip and the opposing side body. As you're ready, you can move on to your belly. Coming all the way onto the belly, Turning the head to the left side and bringing the right foot into the inner thigh of the left leg for a prone tree or a belly down tree. Just notice how this sensation feels in the body. This can be a beautiful restorative pose that requires no propping at all. From here, we can bring the right knee up and come into a loose variation of frog. No propping required. The knees might not be as high, but the sensation on the inner thighs is still relatively intense. If this becomes too intense for your students, you can offer that they straighten the legs. This can alleviate some of the sensation and pressure in the pubic bone and inner thighs. From here, we can move the legs back into a neutral position and extend the arms long, placing the forehead on the ground. This is another beautiful variation of a belly down Shavasana. From here, we can extend the left arm long and roll our body over onto the left shoulder, allowing gravity to open up the front of the body, stretch the side of the body, and the front of the arm. And as you become ready, we can come back to the belly, extending the right arm forward of the body. And this time rolling into a supported reclined Shiva posture, just allowing the body to rest, the organs to drop down. You might offer a variation with the knees bent in a modified fetal position. You might even offer the variation where the hand rests on the upper hip. Whatever feels good for you. There are many different ways that we can teach and practice restorative yoga. The most important thing to remember is to slow down. Give your students an opportunity to unwind and let their practice unfold right before their eyes. Encourage stillness and silence. And remember that less is more. If you don't have props to support your students, use options that leverage the floor or the wall. Thank you so much for sharing your time with me this evening. Be well. Namaste.